Now, in terms of the state of emergency, each of you know that that expires on the 13th of September. The Public Health and Wellbeing Act, an act of the Victorian Parliament, provides for a maximum of 6 months for the running of that state of emergency. It can only operate and function for 6 months. That is the legal instrument that allows, for instance, rules about face masks, rules about COVID-safe work plans in large workplaces and small. That's the legal instrument that, for instance, sits behind density limits in pubs and restaurants and cafes, or things like a positive person, someone who's got this virus, being required to isolate at home. So we simply can't have those important rules and the legal framework that sits behind them. We can't have that end on the 13th of December because this virus won't have ended by the 13th of next month. The important thing here is that before the 13th of September, and I'll leave it to that working group to determine exactly how and the presiding officers when the Parliament will sit, but we will extend the state of emergency provisions within the Public Health and Wellbeing Act for a maximum of a further 12 months. So that means it'll be a total of 18 months, the 6 months that we've already been through, plus a further 12 months. There are a few other minor changes, but again, that bill will be made available at the appropriate time. I think we're going to engage with all parties in the Victorian Parliament quite soon to talk about those changes, and hopefully we can both have a very important agreement about how and when the Parliament sits, and then we can have an orderly process to make those necessary changes. That doesn't relate to the state of disaster. That doesn't relate to the rules, many of them that we are living under right now, but it is about making sure that even after the worst of this, the second wave has passed, there will still be, for a considerable period of time, it could be less than another 12 months, we'd certainly hope so. If a vaccine was to appear next year, well then many of those rules will not be needed. But we have to assume that that vaccine won't be here, and that there will be some rules like how many people can go to a restaurant, wearing face masks, COVID-safe work plans in workplaces, and the need for people, as a matter of law, if you've got this, you need to be at home away from other people. Those sorts of rules are all a product of the state of emergency, and the provisions within the Public Health and Wellbeing Act need to be changed to reflect the fact that whilst we'd all love this to be over by the 13th of September, which is when the Act says the state of emergency must end, that's just not going to be the case. We're going to have this with us for a considerably longer period than that. Just before I ask Jenny to speak to the next announcement we have, which is a comprehensive dashboard of data at a local government level, lots of different data, more than has ever been, I think, produced. It's all about trying to make sure that the community has the most complete picture, and arguably that data, that important information will become even more critical once we get beyond this second wave and we begin to open up. Knowing about a case in a given setting, knowing about an outbreak in a part of Melbourne or part of regional Victoria will arguably be more important when we've got so many people moving around, as we will have once these restrictions are eased. That public information and the ability to be able to call upon people to come forward and get tested, for instance, that'll be even more important. Not so much in this phase, but once we get beyond it, it'll be very important. So Jenny's got the beginnings of that. That'll be up later on this afternoon, and then that will be added to over time with more and more data sets for the Victorian community, either by going to the website and looking at it directly, or indeed in terms of the reporting that each of you will no doubt do. Can I just, before I ask Jenny to say a few words, can I just again thank every single Victorian who, through making that profound contribution, the right choices, knowing and accepting that we're all in this together, knowing and accepting that whilst we love it to end tomorrow, it's not going to end tomorrow, that we've got to stay the course, we can't let our frustration get the better of us. The only thing that wins, if that happens, is this wicked virus, and we just can't have that happen. We've got to see this through, and I'm so proud and so deeply grateful, not just as the Premier, but as a father, as a son. I am absolutely proud and grateful that so many families in my street, my postcode, in my suburb, in our state are doing the right thing. And I think that's a growing number of people. And every single Victorian who is doing the right thing and coming forward and getting tested as soon as they get symptoms, staying at home, observing the curfew, all of those rules. So many people are following those rules, and I'm grateful to each of them, to each of you, and I'm proud of each of you, because that's what's driving these numbers down. That's why we've got a 1 in front of these numbers, and we're on the verge of getting into double digits. It wasn't that long ago that we had more than 700 cases on a given day. This is a very difficult day for those 15 families that I've just alluded to. It's a very difficult day for many other Victorians who are out of work, who have a sense of uncertainty and indeed a fatigue. But if we don't see this through, if we don't stay the course, then all of that sacrifice, all of that pain and loss will be for nothing, because we won't have defeated the second wave. We will have just begun the process of entering a third wave, and that's not something that we want to do. So I'm so grateful to everyone who's doing the right thing. It is working. It is having a big difference, making a big difference, having a real impact, and I'm proud and grateful to every single Victorian who's playing their part in delivering a successful strategy to defeat this second wave.